Art is too important not to share. Welcome to the Allie and Callie Artcast.
Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Callie. Welcome to the Artcast.
Yes, welcome. What have you been up to,
Well,
Missy?
let's see. What have I been up to? I'm trying to think of anything exciting besides
Your granddaughter.
My granddaughter. She keeps me on my toes. And she's speaking a lot more, and she's just so much fun. And
Nice.
it's just been too hot. I did jump in the lake the other day with Maddie, and that was awesome.
Nice.
And that's the first time. So,
Yeah.
I think July 18th, I finally got in the lake. I went, oh, this is the lake.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in it. Now and I said, from that day on, I said, I'm going to get in the lake every day. Have I been in it since?
Yeah.
No.
I can relate.
But I know. I love the lake. I don't know what.
I know. I don't
and
know
it's
what
so
happens.
hot. I know. I live right by it. It's stupid how close I am. I call it 5 country blocks. But it's a golf cart, a 2-minute golf cart ride there.
Right.
I mean, seriously. But
Yeah.
it's we've been helping my mother-in-law get the rest of her stuff out of storage and trying to get a lot of her stuff out of storage. And I've sold a bunch of bikes, selling
I've been seeing
stuff.
little things pop up on Marketplace every once in a while.
And I sell them like that, so
Wow.
I'm feeling good about that. And
I need to start doing that.
I'm just trying to get rid of stuff because we have way too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I will tell you a funny story. We got rid of because Stu had a whole TV, VCR, DVD player, with a giant back, a very large TV. It was in the garage. It was his garage TV. And he watched all his old VCRs tapes. And then he switched it out to another TV that we had somewhere, whatever. And so I said, Stu goes, well, let's just sell it. I go, nobody's going to want that. He goes, I'm going to put it on Marketplace just for free. I go, okay, free, fine. Then what are we doing with all these VCRs? We had probably over 250 VCR tapes. Or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So VHS. What am I calling VCR? See? VHS. And so he put, like $10 for all of them. But basically he said free because we weren't going to ask people for $1 for each one.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right.
So this guy came out from Spokane and he's filming in Northtown Mall in the basement. He's doing a YouTube series and it's based in a video store. So he sent us a picture of all the store before our videos and then the store after our videos. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so funny. And he goes, so he wants some 80s headshots. Of course, I have a few.
Oh my God.
So we're going to be stars. We love your video store, and I'm going to make up a name. And so we'll be in this, whatever this YouTube show is going to be. So stay tuned. My face will be in the fake video store. I thought that was funny.
Fun.
Yeah, it was funny. So anyway, that's
Go viral.
yeah, it'll be viral, and I'll be finally famous. A fake actress,
Right.
A real fake actress. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, what have you been doing?
Well, as you know, we just got back from
The
our
best trip, right?
Canada adventure. So my sister and I rented this 28-foot motorhome,
Right.
which we were really nervous to drive,
Yeah.
having never done that before, but we conquered that.
Kudos to
It
you.
actually drove really well,
Yep.
and we got over the border no problem. Went to Canada. We went to Fairmont Hot Springs. We went to the Calgary Stampede.
Which I hear is amazing.
It was hot.
Yeah.
With a bajillion people.
Yeah.
I've been telling everybody it was like the Kootenai County Fair only times 100.
Ooh.
Lots of buildings.
Wow.
We did the second day we were there. We did find a building that had air conditioning and wine, so we were in.
Then you were
heaven.
in. Things are always
and
better
an art
with
show.
wine.
So it's well,
again,
okay.
wine and art.
Right.
What's better than
And
that?
music. They were featuring young up and coming singer songwriters.
Yeah,
so
that's
we
fun.
Drank wine and listened to them sing.
That's good.
In the air conditioning.
Yeah.
But then we went to Banff and we went to Lake Louise, which was a really funny story that I'll have to tell you another time because it's hard to because I don't know why. But anyway, because I don't feel like telling it now.
It's just a longer story. You'll tell another time.
Yep. Anyway.
Save for another day.
And then we headed to Revelstoke, which is where we went for the Luna Festival.
Right. Love
And it's such a great little community. And my daughter and her husband lived there, so we had to go visit them. And that was actually the nicest campground that we stayed in.
Nice.
And we had a lot of fun trying to figure out how to make things work in the camper. Mm-hmm. I think overall we conquered everything. We managed to empty the wastewater without getting anything on us.
Very good.
And that felt like a victory.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yep.
Good job.
And then when we got home, she had one more day here before she left. And she made me go down and jump in the lake. And it's the first time I've been in the lake. First and last time I've been in the lake this year.
So we've both been in the lake.
That's right.
Check.
And I'm like, why don't I do this more often?
I know, it
felt
feels
so good.
Especially because it's been so bleeping hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We'll do it.
Yep.
We should do it.
We should.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Not right now.
Not
because right now we are here to talk to Carrie Scozzaro.
Yay!
Who we've had on the podcast before.
We have.
She has been a journalist. She's also an arts educator. Mm-hmm. I think she's still a journalist.
Yeah.
But it's not why we're here to talk to her about stuff today, because today
she's an artist.
She's an artist. And she is featured in the upcoming Terrain show
in Spokane.
August 2nd. So
August 2nd.
So glad you're here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to be back.
Yay!
Good to have you back.
I can't remember when I was here last.
I know. We'll have to look it up.
It was the season 1, and that was when we were up at the Hive.
I remember
That's
that.
right. Yeah. So 2021?
2020.
Okay. I had just moved to Spokane.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was making a living as a writer, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the staff at Inlander, which was also awesome.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But I missed teaching.
Right.
And so I went back to teaching.
Right.
And now I teach in Spokane.
Yeah. What school?
North Central High School.
North Central High
Yes.
School.
Nice.
And I think maybe a year ago or so, probably a little over a year ago, I saw a call for art at Terrain. And that's in their new location in Kendall Yards. Great location, great organization. They were doing an open call, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to teach art, I should be walking the talk.
Oh,
and I hadn't made art with any level of seriousness since 2016. And then 2020, when I was teaching at North Idaho College, I did a couple pieces. And so I just, kind of have this love-hate relationship with art. When you're teaching it and you're writing about it, it's kind of hard to make it because it's always like, let me do this other thing. Right. Instead of getting in the studio. And so that's kind of how it went for a couple of years. But I thought, okay, if I'm teaching and I have this studio, I either need to get rid of the studio and do something sensible, like have another bedroom or a place to put all my plants, or I need to make some work. So this is kind of my last ditch effort at just trying to pull together a show. So that's
how many
what that
pieces did you pull together, do you think?
Well, this show is actually unique in that I curated the show. And I'm it was going to be 8 artists, but now it's actually 7. One of the artists dropped out. But I curated the show. Terrain it's a pretty big space. And so for me to fill that, it would have been kind of a momentous, effort to fill that space. Plus, I didn't want the show to be all about me. I wanted it to be about artists in the region who I knew through writing or through teaching, whose work I collected, but who had some synergy around the idea of language.
Oh, cool.
And so the 7 artists that I chose all work with language in some way. And so my work is just part of the show.
So give me an example of what a person working in language would be besides journalism.
So, for example, Emma Noyes is the author of Baby Speak Salish. And if you haven't met her. There's a great Northwest Profiles video on her. She is involved with resurrecting Salish, but doing it in a very contemporary way. And that was that book, Baby Speaks Salish. And she also has a graphic design angle. So her involvement with language is cultural. And I initially had wanted to have Carl Richardson in. And again, he's working with language and printmaking, and because he works with terrain, he's actually going to be the install person. He wasn't able to do it. Another person that I asked, who unfortunately had to drop out, is Tracy Poindexter Canton, and she does work that's inspired by literature.
Oh.
And so she, like I said, wasn't able to be in the show, but her work sort of reminded me of Kay O'Rourke. And so where Tracy's perspective is from a Black American female, and younger than me, which isn't saying much. That's pretty much everybody.
Now.
And then Kay is in her 80s. She works with a narrative work. So she works with language in a very storytelling way. And so Tracy might be inspired by poetry, and Kay's more inspired by literature, but their work is narrative. And then Lance Cinema, I showed with him at Saranac Art Projects, and he was doing these graffiti lettering on ceramic pieces.
Oh, cool.
And so then he did a whole series of climate change paintings. So he's working with words and ideas. So narrative, but also a kind of a socio-political element. And sometimes he incorporates words into his work. And then Helen Parsons often incorporates words into her work. She does very pop, modern, contemporary, cutting-edge fabric work.
Oh, wow.
And really interesting artist. She runs Entropy. So her work...
What is Entropy?
It's a gallery in Spokane.
Oh, okay.
And it also is like a vintage record shop. And so she's just got this really great cross-pollination with pop culture. And then May Katonen is the other artist, and I've actually never met May. She was here. She deals with language, again, in a cultural way, but she also incorporates stuff that has written words on it. And I have one of her pieces. It's called Tabernacle, and it uses an Asian American newspaper, and she folded it in a way that represented letters.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was really interesting. So whether it's narrative or inspired by literature or poetry or my work, which incorporates words, but also might be narrative, also might be socio-political, I wanted to try and find these, kind of synergy amongst all these artists. Then May's husband, Daniel, is also participating, and he has a learning disability, and so was initially going to include a piece on dyslexia. So that's another aspect of language.
Right.
So that's what this show was, trying to just find some bits and pieces and sort of loosely stitch it together around a theme.
Oh, I love that.
And then see what happens.
Right. Right.
And here we are.
Yeah. All right.
And it's one day only?
No, it's actually going to be the whole month of August.
Oh, good.
So opens August 2nd and then continues until the 30th or 31st, whatever that Saturday is.
And that's great.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm excited because it meant putting work together and curating and doing all the press release, PR, marketing stuff. So all the different things that I do. It's kind of fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
So can you give us just a little synopsis of what Terrain is? Because we keep hearing about them in Spokane and their presence. They're definitely art-centric.
Yeah, they're huge. And it's interesting being in Spokane now and looking at what people are doing in North Idaho or maybe even Moscow or even Boise. It's a very different arts community in Spokane. Terrain started as a pop-up event. A one-night-only pop-up event. And then the organizers, Ginger Ewing and Jackie Caro amongst them, just worked and worked and worked and worked. A lot of volunteers, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of fundraising, a lot of doing a one-night event, which was art and music and performance and sort of avant-garde and giving voice to emerging artists, and a pop-up location. Eventually ended up with, and this is a little over 10 years ago, maybe even longer, ended up with a couple of different things. They have a permanent gallery near Kendall Yards on Monroe. That's where the show is going to be. And that's a great space. Again, giving voice to emerging artists, showing work that maybe wouldn't normally get the play in a traditional gallery setting.
Sure.
Certainly that's going to be true of the show that I'm in. But then they also run from here, which is in the mall, the River Park Square, and they do Bazaar and they do Burzar. So Bazaar is in the summer, I think, and it's an outdoor art market. Ironically, I write for Inlander, but I don't keep track of the dates, right?
Yeah, right.
And then Burzar is a winter art market, and it takes over River Park Square. So they're involved with Burzar and Bazaar.
Yeah, Burzar.
And so they do all those things, but they're also, they're just also involved in basically re-energizing the Spokane arts community niche that maybe just wasn't getting as much focus. Emerging artists, artists of color, the LGBTQ community, they have really helped advance what was an alternative art scene, but really is a primary art scene, and just shows what you can do by saying, "Hey, I'm not going to move to Seattle. I'm not going to move to some other urban area. I'm going to create that here," and that's what the organizers of Terrain have done.
Add a little flair to your special events with Scraps Barbecue, a great catering choice for your next gathering. Specializing in golf tournaments, sporting events, weddings, and other family-friend gatherings, their commercial kitchen can be on site, or you can choose to have a fully catered meal delivered right to you. Known for their authentic Santa Maria-style tri-tip and tequila lime fish tacos, they can customize the menu to meet your needs for groups of 20 to 2,500. Contact Kevin at kevin@scrapsbarbecue.com or check them out on Facebook.
The Ovation Company, in partnership with the Chalkboard Agency, is committed to improving the climate and culture of our schools. The number one indicator for student success is connectedness, feeling like you are part of something. Nothing helps connect people like a good story. After all, isn't a podcast a way to share and collect stories? The Chalkboard Agency's mission is to connect the world of education through the stories that bond us all. To find out more, visit thechalkboardagency.com. And if you have a story to tell that you believe would help young people to be kinder to one another, reach out to the Chalkboard Agency and let us connect you to the world. So tell us a few of your pieces that you're going to have in this show.
So this show is called In the Meantime. And if you look up the word mean, and I love to do this, it could signify lots of things, right? So mean meaning average, but also what do words mean? We've had a lot of national dialogue about what are facts and what is truth and what is reality. And that's not going away. But also mean. That there's a meanness, an unkindness that has permeated our culture. And so I wanted to find a title that played with all of those things, but also speaks to the idea that the artists in the show, and yourselves included, when do you make art? When do you make music? When do you write? When do you do your creative stuff? In the meantime.
In the meantime,
after laundry,
meanwhile,
after the kids, after dinner's made, after work, after in the meantime, also trying to make art. And so I like that ambiguity. I like that there's a multiplicity to that.
I love that.
So that's
You're
the work.
so smart.
That's good.
That's the work that I'm showing. I'm showing a couple different things. Some of the pieces might be a wee bit political, but here's the thing. It's really easy for anybody to come in and go, this is what I believe. Well, that ends the dialogue right there. That's not what I want. What I want is to create dialogue, and I want to create pieces that can be interpreted multiple ways. And so there's this one piece that I'm working on, and it is an empty black frame, so there's no backing to it, and there's a wing suspended from inside this frame. Now, you could look at it from the left, or you could look at it from the right. And it'll be mounted on a stand, And above, inside this frame, it says "We the People." And the piece is called "Stand Here." So really the choice is up to the viewer. Stand here. Where do you stand?
Right.
And this idea that we stand one way or another is absolutely ridiculous. We don't.
Right.
Depending on the issue, I might stand a little to the left, and the other issue, I stand a little to the right.
Right.
And so I really wanted pieces that give people a lot of access points, speak to contemporary issues, but do it in a way that is not about me and what I believe. I know what I believe. What I want is that dialogue. So again, going back to language, the dialogue. So that's one of the pieces. And then I have a 4-letter word series.
Fun.
Right? 4-letter words we think of as naughty.
Right.
And what I ended up doing with those words, I use very loaded words that can be interpreted as a verb or as a noun, again, that ambiguity. And so, there's a little naughtiness. There's one called mate. And it has a one of those little cards you get from Las Vegas when you're walking around and they hand you these cards with these girls on them.
Oh, geez.
So it has a little picture of a gal, but mate, and then what does that mean? Or is it a verb? Is it a noun? And so I'm playing around with the idea that what each person brings to the artwork is a really important part of what they get out of it.
Right.
And then there's a whole series I was telling you before we got started. I'm calling it 2020 Redux. And it's 2020 Revisited. I was keeping all these calendars. I've always kept these paper calendars. And right around February, March 2020, things got a little nutty, if you remember.
I do remember.
It was pretty
Very
crazy.
well.
And so I started making X's on my calendar because this got canceled, that got canceled, this other thing got canceled. And about a year and a half later, I don't know if this happened to you, I couldn't keep track of time. I feel like after COVID and the shutdown and all of that, I was, and not necessarily having a regular schedule because I wasn't teaching full time anymore. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what month and when did this happen? I don't know. So I was looking back through my calendars and I noticed those X's, and that was the spark. And so I made kind of time capsules out of the calendars. They became a way to revisit that time.
Almost like a journal.
Yeah, it's like a journal. It's a very visual journal. And they started out really scary.
Yeah.
I was nervous, and I'm a pretty chill person, but I was like, oh,
Yeah, what's happening?
Yikes. This is
pretty
scary.
nervous.
It's the end of the world. Woo!
And, just all these funny things. I was saying that I was tracking my temperature because I'm a woman of a certain age. So I was tracking my temperature and having these like, gosh, is it hot in here? Do I have COVID? It's just so funny. And then noticing in the calendar as I was going through these March, then April, and then by May it's spring and I'm out in the garden and I'm feeling like, a little bit better, and then June, and they just became this visual record for me. And kind of a springboard for making pieces. And there's 9 pieces. So it ends in November of 2020.
Right.
And that 9 months seemed to be a pretty good stopping point.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, kind of birthing a new time period here.
And a new reality.
And it's interesting to go back and look at the things that we've done a year ago or 2 years ago or 20 years ago,
right.
journal writing or whatever.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. So those are the pieces that I have, and then we'll just see how that all looks.
Yeah.
Right.
The install is coming up, and then the opening is August 2nd, and it goes through all of August. It's a pretty slow month for art in Spokane, but
Right. But it'll be, I'm excited to see it.
I'm excited too. I think there's really something to be said for having a deadline.
Yes, there is.
Huge.
I work best on the deadline.
Having a deadline
everyone
made
does.
me. It just made me focus.
Yeah.
And this is my first shot at curating in a long time, so that was interesting.
I think it's going to be amazing. So the opening reception is August 2nd from
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Okay.
At Terrain, it's free. It's Art Walk, so it's always first Friday in Spokane. And the insider's tip would be to park right in front of My Fresh Basket or anywhere there on Summit Parkway. Walk over to Terrain.
Which is across the street.
And lots of really yummy restaurants there on Summit Parkway. So
we're going.
Go early, have a beverage. Yep, Kendall Yards. Mole, fabulous
that's where we should go.
patio, really good beverages.
Another good one.
There's lots of good restaurants.
Yeah.
Go over
I actually love Kendall Yards.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think. I mean,
we've been there.
Yeah, there's so much fun stuff going on there.
Yeah.
and then
love
you
it.
can just walk up to
Love it.
just walk up. So from there, you just walk into town, go to Chase Gallery, maybe go up to Colva has a good show, go to Entropy. You can probably hit
We should do
all
that.
those
Several
galleries.
galleries right there within walking distance.
And then I walk
second.
back and sober up by then, walk back and get in the car and then maybe go hit Saranac and some other places
Right.
or, go hit another part of town.
I don't think I've ever done Art Walk in Spokane.
I have not. Because I heard at one point that it wasn't really an art walk. You actually had to drive to everywhere. I think I just never checked into it.
Yeah.
I think it's really sort of regionalized. So if you're in Kendall Yards, there's a couple places in Kendall Yards, and then Terrain, and then walk across the bridge, and then you're just a few minutes away from Colva Sullivan, Trackside, Barrister. So it just depends. It depends on the weather.
Right.
It depends
How
on your
hot it's gonna
mobility, how hot it's going to be,
Right.
But it's walkable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely walkable.
And is there some place online that we can, first of all, find out about the show that's at Terrain?
There is, and I don't know the website. I think it's terrainspokane.com.
It is.
Okay.
Terrainspokane.com. I'm on it right now.
Now, shameless plug for Inlander. They have an online events calendar. And so if you just go in and you say, hey, I want to know everything that's opening Friday, August 2nd, comedy, music, art,
and you'll get
all
a
of it.
whole list of
And you
things.
can actually dial down the filter and just show me visual arts.
Cool.
And the show is in there for that. And, you can go to Facebook and search Terrain,
Right.
but it's probably just as easy to go to their
Just the
website. If you go to their
Yeah.
website, then you're going to see all the other cool stuff they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, they always have something going on. So
They had a great workshop recently that was basically about artists learning to market themselves. And I thought Cheryl Metcalf could really benefit from that. So the two of us...
Two of you? You went?
Yes, so the two of us went together.
I interpret for her when she can't speak.
And it was really cool. It was for me. It was because I do marketing. It was just kind of a little refresher, kind of a verification of what I'm doing and what I think, and learned a few new things too. But I think it was really valuable for Cheryl to hear from these different panelists. So that was a cool thing that they offered.
And that might have been part of a larger series that they do, the Creative Enterprise series. I actually got a call to be a mentor for that. And then the gal ended up having to switch directions there, but they will bring in mentors from the community, maybe in publishing and maybe in music and maybe somebody who's a marketing expert. And those mentors work with people in this creative enterprise program to help them develop a pitch, to help them develop their brand.
That's great.
All of the things that are necessary to get some kind of business, whether it's a home-based business or a creative business, but all of the things that they need to kind of get up and running. And then they also do some panel discussions and other collaborations. That's one thing I really like about Terrain. They do a lot of collaborations with a lot of other organizations. They really are, they're connecting. They're making these connections.
That's great.
And whether it's their auction, which was really fun, they did a fundraising auction. It's $200. That's the price for the artwork. There were a lot of heavy hitters in that show. $200.
Wow.
That's great.
Put your sticker on there, and that's yours. $200. Walk away. And it's great. They raise a ton of money really quick. It's super fun. It's a really cool event. I like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It says
So
here,
are the pieces donated?
The artists
Donate.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
It says here on the website, in 2023, Terrain's programs generated 1.190550 in art sales
Wow.
and artist payments. That's over $1 million.
That is.
That's a big deal.
That is a
huge.
big deal.
I think more so than
That's amazing.
Spokane Arts has got a kind of a parallel agenda as far as helping artists connect and promote. Terrain has filled a niche in a really unique way to speak the language that legislators speak and speak the language that administrators speak, which is, hey, we are an arts economy. Let's show you what that really looks like.
Right.
And that has been a game changer for the community, is to elevate the arts in general. And
because you're right, the arts actually are a huge economic
we've talked about that. I remember when you were
communities,
doing your thing here, we talked about that a lot.
Big.
Yeah.
It's big.
And it's important. I think this notion of the starving artist is ridiculous.
Right.
The idea that the arts, I mean, we're always questioning what value do the arts have. And maybe with AI, maybe with everybody's ability on their phone and Photoshop, and, people can, quote, paint without necessarily actually picking up a paintbrush because it can be done digitally. There's so many ways to, quote, make art that maybe has watered down the idea of what value does art have, because it is more accessible. By the same token, the artists have to figure out a way to present themselves
That's
and
the
keep
key.
at it.
It's the hardest part. I think,
Yeah.
is
It's
getting
a hard
yourself
part.
out there and making a living if you want to.
And a life.
Right.
And
Those
a
are the
life.
two things,
And
making a
loving
living
it.
and making a life.
And loving it while you're doing
And
it.
one
Yeah.
shouldn't be at the exclusion of the other.
Yeah.
We should be able to do both.
Greetings, listeners of the Allie and Callie Artcast podcasts. This is Jason from Tubbs Coffee Roasters. Keeping art alive and culture relevant is the heart and soul of our community of creatives. And as a local coffee roaster who loves a good origin story of a painter or a farmer or a musician, we proudly support the Allie and Callie's Artcast podcast's expansion and exploration through positive conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, preferably one from Tubbs Coffee Roasters, and tune in, humans. Your ears will thank you.
For all your screen printing needs, trust the local you can count on. Pyramid Printing has been a Coeur d'Alene favorite for over 2 decades.
Specializing in screen printing, embroidery, signs, banners, and stickers. For all jobs, big and small, just give Eric a call.
Email us at info@pyramidprintingcda.com or give us a call at 208-664-0254.
PyramidPrintingCDA.com. So, Carrie, not only are you doing art and writing and educating young people, young minds, but you also have a house that you call the Fortress.
The Fortress,
And
yeah.
I love going to visit because you have, I mean, it is artwork in and of itself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about
It is my giant sculpture project. I was very fortunate to get in there in 2019. The guy who lived there before me was an artist and passed away unexpectedly. He was in his 80s. And so actually the family left some artwork behind. So I think that's a good omen. But the Fortress is 1/3 of an acre in Spokane Valley. And I call it the Fortress because there's the rock wall around it. And it's on a corner. And the idea is to turn the place into an artist in residency home when I pass on, which hopefully will be
many
years from now.
Yes.
But I don't have any children that I know of.
Surprise! Yeah, no.
Surprise. Sometimes that joke falls completely flat. But I had this idea to turn a part of the house. So there's a house, and then there's this kind of connecting room, and then there's a garage and a shop. And I had this idea to turn the shop into a place where someone can live and they would live rent free. That's a big barrier for creatives is paying rent and doing the day to day. So the idea would be that the house would be where the caretaker lives. And that would be me for a while. And it would also function as sort of a gallery art space, not public art space, but art space. I mean, I have artwork from, you name it, and I have that artwork. That was part of the deal when I started writing, was to buy artwork. In fact, the first piece I bought was a Harold Belays, right? So that would be an event space, and I need to keep working on it. I want to make it ADA accessible. I want to kind of modernize it a little bit, but it's been my sanctuary. And I realize I'm jumping around here, but
that's okay.
So I've done all the work in there. I repainted the floors. I took apart cabinets and rebuilt them, and I've just done it, sort of teaching myself how to do it. So as long as you don't look too closely, it's kind of cool. And I've painted it, fun colors and done all that. But the shop would be where I would create the residency program. And the idea is that the 3 or 4 things that I do would be who the resident could pull from those areas. One is education. I don't know if there are any, educational residencies, but a residence for an educator, an artist, someone who works in food or food systems, whether that's cooking or whether that's gardening, because I love gardening, big gardener, as you know, or the other one would be a writer. And the idea is to set that up as a nonprofit eventually, so that someone would live there rent-free, a couple months at a time, and then give back to the community, whether that's an event or working with local school children in the area, or an art show, or creating an artwork on the property or something.
Right.
But it's the fortress, not the fort.
Right.
Because the future is female.
That's
Right?
right.
Yeah. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no, it's the fortress, and it's kind of my work of art. I've been putting artwork out in the yard, and I have incorporated certain colors. And if I put a trellis up for tomatoes, for example, I paint them turquoise because I want them to be pretty. Right. And what I love, and this happens almost every day that I'm out there, and this just makes me really happy. People pull over, or they'll stop, and they see me and they'll say, I just love your yard. And it just tickles me. This guy walked by with his little kids. They make it a point to walk by the house on their walks in the stroller because they want to see the sunflowers, or because they want to see the blue globe thistle, or because they want to see what artwork I put up, because I put artwork on the outside of the house. People do it all the time, and it makes me happy. Because I remember houses like that. There was a house in Rathdrum. I would go out of my way when I home from school every day to drive by that house because I always knew they were going to have these really cool flowers and this really cool funky artwork out there. And it made me happy on my drive home. Yep. And I love the idea of being that until I can turn it into something else.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, that's such
the
a
idea.
Cool idea.
That's the plan.
Yeah. And
I need to win the lottery.
I've been to the yard. It's awesome. It's a little funky, but
it's very funky.
It's very cool.
And then also to just demonstrate that, look, it can be pretty, but it can also be food producing. I have a friend who always says, the zombie apocalypse hits, I'm coming to your house. Because it's pretty, but it's also food producing. And that's really important. Right. To me.
Yes.
Well,
I think it's important to a lot of people.
To show that this is possible. And that's how I did it. I remember going to a place in Sandpoint, and there was these really pretty bushes. And I was going to see another artist, Katrine Earle, and I was at the wrong house. And so I was knocking on the door, and this woman had these bushes in front of her house, and they were beautiful bushes. And I was like, are those blueberries? And she said, yeah. And I thought, ding. If I'm going to have bushes, I should have bushes that produce food.
Exactly.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So that sort of, and then Katrine does a lot of gardening. So just slowly I picked up this idea of like, well, hey, if it's going to be a tree, why not a fruit tree? You know, or if it's going to be bushes, why not? You know, why not? So and that's been kind of the guiding principle of that 2-for-1. It's pretty, but it also produces food.
That's good.
Well,
Multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Multi-purpose yard.
Yeah. So, and it's my sanctuary.
Yeah.
You know, the fortress is the keep. It's the place that protects you, is your source of strength, and that's I get a tremendous sense of peace and groundedness, and I feel very fortunate to have a home. But I also feel very strongly that it's important to share that and eventually give back.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially because I don't have kids.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the long-term plan.
Well, I love that. I think it's awesome. I can't wait to see what you do.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
So let's remind everybody once again how to get a hold of Terrain. It's terrainspokane.com.
Show starts August 2nd.
5 to 8 is the reception.
And it's Art Walk. First Friday, they call it.
Right, first
in
Friday
Spokane.
in
That's
Spokane.
what they call it.
Yep. So
it's going to run all month. So make sure you go to Terrain to see Carrie's work.
right, and you'll meet Carrie
Yes.
on
I
will be-
August 2nd if you go.
I will
August
be
2nd.
there. Many of the artists will be there. Not all of them, but many of the artists will be there. And the thing I like about Art Walk is it's a community. And so you're going to meet somebody new.
Yeah.
But you're also going to see familiar friends. And if you do a couple of those, you start to get a sense of kind of the dynamic, ever-changing arts community in Spokane, and not just Spokane, you know, kind of the greater Spokane area. There's a
Right.
lot of crossover. And I really like that opportunity to, it's really, for me, it's more about the social, to get to talk to people and visit with people I haven't seen in a while. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
And the show is called Meantime.
In the
In the
meantime.
In the meantime.
Yes.
I love that.
I know.
In the meantime.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So it's also Art on the Green that weekend.
Yes.
So you can go to Spokane and enjoy the art scene there.
On Friday. And then
Friday, and then come
Saturday
back.
and Sunday,
Yep.
you can do Art on the Green in Coeur d'Alene.
It'll be a big art-filled weekend.
It's a big weekend for art.
Yeah.
So,
So we're going to be there on Sunday.
yes.
Kristen and Callie and I walking around.
Nice.
If you want to
Oh,
come meet us.
come meet us. What are you
We're
saying,
going to do
Kristen?
some live Facebook feeds.
A live Facebook feed.
I am trying
Art on
to
the Green.
decipher Kristen's
She's doing
crazy
charades.
sign language.
I was like, what is she's pointing at the phone? We'll make calls at Art on the Green. What?
And you want to give people the insider tip, though. Park up
Oh, that's right.
and walk down. Park in Kendall Yards. Or just, I like to park in Kendall Yards. It's 90 minutes free parking. And it's My Fresh Basket is right there. Right.
My Fresh Basket.
That's it.
And you can't park at My Fresh Basket.
But
can't
you
park
buy
it.
There is
But
a
kind of
parking lot nearby.
I like to park and then just kind of go and walk and maybe grab a bite or grab a drink or whatever.
Right.
And it's really walkable.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely time to be in Spokane. You're walking over the falls, you know.
So not only are you getting your art experience, you're getting a little exercise too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's good for you on every level.
exactly.
Yes.
All righty. Well, thanks for being
Thanks
here.
for having
Yeah,
me.
well,
It's been
welcome
really
back.
fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the show.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
So,
I'm Allie.
and I'm Callie, and whatever you do today, make sure it's creative. Go see some art.
Yeah.
The Allie and Callie Artcast is sponsored in part by Tubbs Coffee Roasters, globally sourced, locally roasted coffee. Scraps Barbecue, a locally owned catering company. The Ovation Company, standing for what is right and good. And Pyramid Printing, a Coeur d'Alene favorite for over 2 decades.